order at 7:06. The board met in closed session with regards to conference with labor negotiation, with regards to real property, with regards to public employee discipline, dismissal, release, and public employee performance evaluation. The board discussed only two items, real property negotiations and public employee discipline, dismissal, release, complaint. No action was taken. We will be reconvening at the end of the meeting to cover the other 2 points. Flag salute. Richard, could you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Roll call, please.
Mr. Rouse?
Here.
Mr. Rashain?
Here.
Mr. Levy?
Here.
Ms. Gould?
Here.
Ms. Wyden?
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. The district digitally records the audio portion of the meetings. The recorder is located in front of the board scribe. That's lovely Sandy. All recordings are kept in the superintendent's office for 30 days and are available during that time period for inspection by members of the public on district equipment without charge. As a community service, Pacific Community Television records and broadcasts meetings. Okay, so what you'll say will be recorded by the district and Pacifica Community Television. Oh, I did the report out on closed session items. Okay, we need approval for the minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Passes by vote, thank you.
Okay, we need an approval for the agenda and the consent agenda.
I move to approve agenda and consent agenda.
Second?
All in favor?
Passes by vote, thank you.
All right, communications. This portion of the agenda is available to the public to address board meetings on any issue that is not on the agenda. I do have cards for agenda items, okay. LSEA, CSEA, people wishing to address the board on non-agenda items. Board Superintendent Communications. Okay. Eric, you want to start? Wait, did I miss correspondence? I'm sorry, I missed correspondence.
Okay.
Correspondence, sorry, it's in a new format.
I know.
And I got new glasses.
Okay, I do have some correspondence. I'm happy to report that we received from San Mateo County Office of Ed a review update of our LCAP, and it was approved by San Mateo County Office of Education. We will probably be receiving in the near future suggestions and review of our recommendations of what we might want to do and look at for this year. So we will be reviewing, putting into action our year 1 of our LCAP, and then again we'll be monitoring our metrics and see if they're still good, and then we'll modify our actions, and then it'll come up for approval again probably in the spring. Okay? I do have some information regarding the Pacifica Education Foundation. They're working on a potential donation. We supplied or had done some infrastructure work for technology over the summer, and we are able to, and we had somebody approach one of the foundation members, perhaps enhancing some of the connectivity that that we have already established over July. So we're looking forward to perhaps getting that added into the infrastructure for Pacifica School District. And so
As a donation?
As a donation, yeah, through the foundation. So we're working on that. And last but not least, we did receive a notification from the Silicon Valley Community Foundation that we received the Ready Schools grant for $15,000. So we'll be able to continue our work with the preschools and the kindergarten teachers and aligning our early childhood education.
Well, good,
Thank
I'm
you.
glad I let you do correspondence.
Yeah.
Well, good news.
Good news.
Okay, Eric, you want to start us off with?
Well,
I'm
I was in the
picking on
bucket
you.
when I said at the end, now we're very concerned I still got it. I've been to a absolutely staggering number of meetings, but very few of them to do with board business. The closed sessions that you did, then I, with the whole board, went to the opening for parents last Saturday.
Welcome
at
to Pacifica
The welcome,
School
which was
District.
well attended and a great community event. And then yesterday, Monday, when did we go have the first staff day?
That was Tuesday.
Tuesday, that would be yesterday.
Yeah.
Andrea and I went through that to welcome back the staff, and this was at IBL. And it was great to welcome in the new staff members and to recognize the 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and 40 years of service pins for some district staff, which is a stunning number. And it's a great day, and it's really nice to see everybody get back together and wear the hats, and that was fun to be a part of. So, y'all missed a great party. That's it. It's been summer, remember, we haven't had many.
Yeah, I'm mixing it up because somebody says, how come someone always goes first? So, Matt?
My major adventures were the welcome to the district, which was really fantastically done. And this morning I had the chance to stop by IBL on my way into work to wish Dan a good first day. So
that's nice.
I'm sure he had one.
Richard?
For me, it was the Welcome to the School District event this past Saturday, and then also I was able to stop in, was that last week? When all the new teachers came for orientation,
yeah,
so I was
new
able to
teacher orientation.
come in and meet all of our new teachers and staff and a couple of psychologists, and you know, so it was nice to see all the brand new faces, some of them brand new to teaching, some of them been in it a while.
Thanks. Andrea?
So, I did that same day, but I did the luncheon to meet a few of the new teachers, and that was very nice. But I had a busy morning yesterday morning with the welcome back, and then this morning with the opening of school. I started over at Ocean Shore, becoming a buddy to a kindergarten family. So, and Ocean Shore gets to be kind of complicated, all the things that you have to maneuver, the different paperwork and the hours, and so it was fun to go to the buddy meeting and talk to a few friends also while I was there, and then went over to Cabrillo to see the opening of school at Cabrillo, and that was a lot of fun. I went to one of Tom's, I was actually at two of Tom's assemblies, because it's kind of the end of one and the beginning of the other for the 4th grade, and then the 5th and 6th grade, and their little welcome back from speeches from the principal, and so that was good, and it's nice to get a good feel of what goes on at Cabrillo, and what that school culture is like, and that culture that Tom is addressing and making a part of the school in the very first day. This is who we are. This is how we act towards each other, et cetera, et cetera. So that was really exciting. It was fun. Then I had to go to work.
Alrighty, well, thank you, Andrea, for filling in. Usually it's the president that needs to give the speech for the first day of school. I was in my classroom with lots of shiny little faces, so I appreciate
Kept it
you.
short.
That's what you do. Love you, welcome back, have a great year. Yeah. I attended the new teacher orientation. I did have an opportunity to meet them and welcome them. And then I was also at the Welcome to the District event, only I was on the outside with the little kiddos. And I just have to say that so many parents were so appreciative to be able to go in and ask their questions without little ones tugging on them or having to, worry about watching their children. They were very appreciative of that, and we received many compliments from parents because they really felt welcomed. And they felt like they were more connected, and they felt excited. One special education parent, I she came to me and said, wanted to know where she could get support. I told her CPAC, to her principal, and she just felt so relieved. And then we had a few kids who just wouldn't leave. They were having so much fun, the kids had to drag them out. The parents had to drag them out. So anyway, so a great event, I think very successful to the mission of helping get our new families situated, so that's good.
So, and I just want to share that Welcome to Pacifica School District is really supported by Pacifica Education Foundation. They were the ones who came and started and wondered if that was something that we could do, and I thought it was a great idea. And then the support behind all of the schools, the PTOs are there, the principals attend, the departments from within Pacifica School District is there to represent and answer questions should they have them. So I too feel that it was just a wonderful event to welcome our families to Pacifica. The one thing about Welcome to 1415, which with all of our staff, is that we did move the Welcome to the New Year the second day of teachers returning. And we want to again acknowledge and thank LSEA for making that switch with us, because it did allow more of the CSEA staff members, the paraprofessionals, et cetera, to attend the session. So I think it makes it to be a more full and inviting morning. And then Cabinet was able to go out to the various sites, and on behalf of the board and Cabinet, we tried to start their day, the school's day, in a cheerful way, and provide them with flowers so that they could put on their office, so that at their office tables, so that they can welcome all of the new families and new students, or the students, back to their schools. So that was kind of our day today.
Okay, great. Okay, we're on to district business. The first one is a report on student open enrollment procedures, so we'll have a staff report, and then I have two members of the public that would like to speak. So what I'd like to do is have staff report, clarifying questions, so if you need to understand something quick, hear from the public, and then if we need to have further discussion, do that. Okay, so Ray?
Okay. So just a friendly reminder to the board that we're looking at the Enrollment Procedures Handbook that was developed back in 2011. And there are changes in this procedure handbook, and I'll just go through some of the highlights. There's changes in dates for kindergarten and sixth grade lottery for the upcoming year. And the change for sixth grade lottery is from the third Friday in February to the last day, school day in January. And then for TK Kinder Lottery, from the third Friday in January to the Friday preceding President's Day, which would be February 13th, 2015. So I just wanted to note that. Moving along and with some of the other changes would be changing the language throughout the handbook from mandatory tours to highly recommended tours. And this is in reference to the parent tours, with the exception at Ocean Shore School. There's also wait list procedures, specifically with language wording changed from fifth grade wait list ends at the conclusion of the fifth grade to the fifth grade wait list ends and is reestablished as a result of the sixth grade lottery. For wait list order, I just want to continue to note that full-time employees continue to have priority status at the time of the lottery. Refer to pages 9 and 11 for that. Transitional kindergarten, which is fairly new in our state, we needed to update the language to reflect eligibility based on Ed Code 4800, which would be the fifth birthday between September 2nd and December 2nd. And then enrollment procedures, we needed to clarify the wording of residency to be at the time of the lottery as opposed to the time of registration. Kindergarten eligibility, the same thing with enrollment procedures, changing the wording. Kindergarten lottery process, we have been advised by legal counsel to delete posting of kindergarten student names after the lottery process. And switching down to sixth grade transfer procedures, we added sixth grade transfer lottery process. That's on page 11. And then finally, with alternative instruction options, reflecting state guidelines, independent study now, we're going to delete the words short-term, and the length of independent study has been increased to up to 1 full school year and may not cross school years. And this again is due to new legislation. So those are some of the highlights of the enrollment procedures. I wanted to just remind the Board of Trustees that our district is so fortunate to have Ms. Beverly Despiva, who is our Student Services Administrative Assistant. She is amazing, she's wonderful, and we're very appreciative of her very diligent and hard work that she gives to the district and to our community. She responds very quickly, and we just value her so much. She's in the audience tonight due to her dedication. And yes, thank you, Beverly. And both Beverly and I are here to respond to the board if you have any questions.
Any questions about what was presented?
Yeah, two
Yeah,
questions.
okay.
So the first is, for 3C2 change to children of newly hired full-time position, what's the rationale behind adding newly hired? What does that change?
So just to clarify, all employees have preference for kindergarten and sixth grade lottery, but newly hired may not be here for the lottery. So they
I
get
see.
preference on the wait list if there's no space at the school of their choice.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So if you were hired after, if you were hired for this year, then obviously you weren't here in the lottery, but then you get to have.
Correct.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Uh-huh.
And then this is where I prepare for people to throw tomatoes. If we're changing the language from mandatory tours to highly recommended tours, I would suggest that we should do that for all the schools. And I understand the argument that it's very important that people know about the parent participation program at Ocean Shore before they sign up for it. But I think that we just need to be clear of two things. Number one, that we're a public school district, and I don't think we should be putting on principle. I think there shouldn't be a barrier to entry at any schools. I think that's one of the things that, for instance, that charter schools do, is by putting a barrier to entry at one school rather than another, it changes who feels comfortable registering for that school. And the other is that the parent participation is something that we request and we love, and we can establish standards, but we can't really enforce it, right? I mean, it's not like we can tell parents this is what's expected of you, but we can't kick them out of the school if they fail to complete their hours at Ocean Shore. And I think that also is something that people should be aware of. This is a request. It's a very special program, but it also is a public school that people should be able to go to without any additional barriers. Okay, so now the
You didn't
tomatoes.
tell them to bring the tomatoes.
That's fine.
I'm sorry, that's right, I'm sorry, I should have sent you an email.
So before we get into kind of a discussion, so that we can be comprehensive, we should hear from the public, so that if there are any issues
Okay.
related to this or different issues, that it's sort of all combined. Okay.
Should the board give all of their comments on what Ray just presented before we go to?
Actually, just clarifying comments, so the discussion includes whatever the members of the public want to include in that discussion, because they may or may not have perspectives that we're all discussing. So we have a full picture, his picture and their picture.
Because I wanted to know why "or accelerated" was used in the line before, just to
Okay, so
kind
that's a
of-
clarifying question, yeah. Okay, go ahead. Okay.
Do you want to?
In the past, the line just read that retained students have priority, but we're also finding that on occasion, we have accelerated student. And
They're skipping a grade.
correct, they're advancing. So if there's not a ready space at their site, they're on the very top of the wait list.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? Okay, so I have two cards, Nicole Larson first, and then Kalima Salahuddin. So Nicole, we asked you to speak at the podium because that's the audio for the camera. Okay, so that anybody watching this at home can hear what you have to say. And you have 3 minutes, so thank you for coming.
And I'll do a 30-second warning if we go near the 3 minutes, just so you know.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, well, thank you all for giving me an opportunity to share this idea with you. My daughter started kindergarten today at Ortega. She has a wonderful teacher, and she's very excited, and I'm sure she'll do very well there. It's a great school. Driving and walking her to the class with her small brother in tow will take me approximately 80 to 100 minutes per day. Yet, I feel almost certain that there is not one student in the incoming kindergarten class at our neighborhood school, Cabrillo, who live closer than we do. For years, we've heard every bell, every announcement on the PA, and have looked forward to the day we would start there. We were extremely unlucky. This proposal is a way for me to channel our disappointment into something productive for our community. I am familiar with the past attempts to reform the lottery system, and this idea is different. This proposal is a way to keep the lottery system while increasing the odds for families within a certain distance to gain acceptance to their neighborhood school. First off, I am requesting that the lottery be randomly computer generated. I am told there is already a database, so this should be fairly straightforward to accomplish. With a computer randomization for oversubscribed schools such as Cabrillo, it is possible to write a program that would enable residents to have a higher probability of obtaining their first choice school if they are within a certain distance, for example a mile, of that school. This is called a weighted geographic algorithm. If residents do not want to go to their neighborhood school, all they have to do is put a different school as their first choice. If the school has enough spots for the students who request it, nothing has changed. The residents requesting their closest school as their first choice would be entered into the pool more than once, so they have a higher probability of being selected. For example, if you do select Cabrillo as your first choice and you are within a mile, distance to be determined, then you would have a 50%, also percentage to be determined through consensus, probability of being selected for this school. So that means rather than your child's name being entered once, it would be entered 1.5 times, just to increase the odds of them being selected. And this can be accomplished very simply with a computer program and would not cost very much money. This new system would be the best of both worlds. It would still allow any Pacifica resident to request any Pacifica school for their new kindergartner, while increasing the chances of being selected for their neighborhood school if this is their preference. My intention with coming here tonight is to convince you this is a good idea, and this is an easy and cost-effective way to implement this. And if we don't address it this year, it's going to continue to come up every year, every few years, until we come to a solution that works for the whole community. Our first step is to form a small committee of representatives from the community and the school board to determine which zones, the distance of the zone, and the weights for the algorithm. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Kalima?
Hello, my name is Kalima Salahuddin. I'm the board president of the Jefferson Union High School District. I've also had 3 children that have come through the PSD. Open enrollment is very important to me. That's why I came down here to speak in support of keeping the system as is. Pacifica is a very segregated town, both socioeconomically and racially. There's a very clear line of where everybody lives. The schools lack diversity that I think is essential. And open enrollment helps keep that diversity happening by allowing students who live on one side of the city to go to schools on the other, and vice versa. This keeps the Pacifica School District ahead of the state momentum. The state, and if you talk to any education reformer, this is the way they're moving. They're moving to a more open system that allows people to not be stuck in a cluster of low income or just one race, so you can move outside of that. There's already laws on the books that allow students that live in a school that is low income or Title I to move out to other schools already. So it's already moving that way, and I think that momentum is just going to keep moving forward. JUHSD is an open enrollment school that has a neighborhood preference, and I receive emails all the time about parents who live across the street and still can't get into their school of preference. It doesn't solve the problem giving a weighted preference to parents through a neighborhood school system. The last thing I would like to bring up is some of my best friends, Trish Scholl and Beth Smirnin, I would have never met had it not been for open enrollment. They were parents that applied to the school that was closest to them. They did not get into that school, and they both came up to Sunset Ridge. We were not mingled in the city without that. I think it was a shining thing to be really proud of, that our kids could see all of us working together on the PTO, and isn't that the example that we're trying to set for our children, to not stick with the people that you're most comfortable with, that you have to learn to work in the sandbox with everybody. And the other thing I would like to mention is equity. It's on your mission statement, and there's schools in certain neighborhoods that can't raise the amount of money that other schools can, and if we close it and make it harder for those parents to mix around, I think it'll severely affect equity in the school district, and that's another huge concern of mine. So again, thank you so much for letting me speak. Happy first day to everyone.
All right, is there anybody else who'd like to speak on this item? All right, so we've heard speakers from the public. Open up for discussion. Go ahead. Oh, Eric, okay.
I guess I'll go back to the document itself. I appreciate the effort that went into it, Ray, and the detail of trying to get the nuts and bolts down. My concern is that I think we've lost some of the institutional history here, and I think the background information section is about a fraction of what it needs to be, because I think we've lost the explanation of why we're structured the way we are. And in point of fact, we don't explain what our magnet programs are. We don't explain that technically speaking, to the issue that was raised, you are going to your neighborhood school because Ortega is your neighborhood school, because Cabrillo is a magnet school. We once had 15 schools in this district and 10,000 children, and kids at that time could walk to their schools. But we've closed school after school after school, and some of you are probably living on sites that were once schools. So we're not the same, and we don't say that as clearly to understand. I mean, we say it, but we don't explain how we've moved to how Valimar was created and why the program is what it is, why Ocean Shore was created, why Cabrillo was created, and the concept behind them. That means, strictly speaking, just because you live across the street, it's the school in your neighborhood, but it's not your neighborhood school. And we've lost that. And I think by losing that discussion, there's a different idea of what should be. We're fortunate. We have 6 great schools, and that's awesome. But they're not all the same. And if we don't take the time to, we talked about this before on some other issues, that 10% of our student body turns over every year. So a couple years down the road, we have a whole population that doesn't know the history of what's come before. And just because we've done it before doesn't mean we shouldn't look to the future to do things differently. I'm not suggesting that we never change, but I think it's important that we understand what the issue is to start with, because we're hearing from incoming kindergarten parents who have an issue and a concern, and I certainly understand the concern, but what about all the people who are already in the schools, have been in the schools, are in programs for particular reasons? I think that's part of this discussion, and I'm not sure that the solution offered, we have to first decide what the problem, if there's a problem, and what it is, before we look at a solution. Because otherwise you're just spending a lot of time and you're not really moving things down the road. So I would like to see this expanded and a little bit more effort made to let the community know why we do what we do.
Just on that question, on the first section, at some point, if you could take a look at the background information that's actually in the handbook, because that's what goes out to parents, and maybe that needs to be revised. Okay.
And that's why when I sent that to you, I said, maybe it's somewhere else, but it needs to be in here, because this is where people are reading about enrollment. So they need to know what the school, why the schools are the way they are. If we don't explain to people why we do it, then it doesn't make sense, and you get upset people, and we haven't explained why we're doing it.
Okay.
They may still take issue with it, but at least we'll have put it out there.
Well, you had your hand up, I don't know if you want to speak now, or, because you guys both raised your hands at the same time, I pulled on Eric and.
Sure, there's two things. Let me first separate out the idea of computerizing the lottery from the neighborhood schools proposal. And that, I think I've said before that I think it would be a good idea to computerize the lottery, because reaching into a bag and pulling out cards is, strictly speaking, not very random, and it's subject to all sorts of biases. I do think that there will probably be people who, even if we computerize the lottery, still feel that it's not fair and will be concerned that somehow Big Brother will be in there changing the lottery. And so I don't know how the advantage to pulling stuff out of a hat, so to speak, is that it happens in front of everybody, and so people can be sure with their own eyes that in theory it's fair. But personally, I think it would be fairer to do it by computer. Now, with regard to the neighborhood schools proposal, I think what I feel we should be weighing is the number of people who feel like the current system is unfair against the number of people who might feel that a new system was unfair. And it's my understanding that this year, the only school that was not able to accommodate every single person that wanted to go there was Cabrillo. Correct. And that obviously even since the lottery, some students have been admitted to Cabrillo since the lottery took place in February. Correct. So I think that we're looking at the number of people across the district who felt that they did not get their first choice was, I think, maybe 19 as of January, and somewhat less now. And if those people stay on the wait list, presumably it will be considerably less after a year. So I think that it's actually a surprisingly low number, and I feel very bad for anybody who gets caught up in that and has to send their kid to a school that isn't their first choice, because I do feel for them if you want to go to the neighborhood school. But there are a number of downsides that were pointed out to the idea of changing it, and I do think that the diversity issue is a major concern. It is true that the vast majority of English language learners and socioeconomically disadvantaged students in the district come from the north side. And if we were to implement this system, I think that it would be unavoidable that there would be some impact in the diversity of our schools, and that would be significant. Beyond those issues, I think that the schools serve an important function in melding together different parts of town. I think that it's very easy to live in Lindemar and never meet anyone from the manor, except potentially through your school. And that's where I think a lot of parents in Pacifica get a feeling for the community as a whole, and I think that that's a very healthy thing. I do worry that if we institute a system like this, we will essentially wind up having to make people prove where they live. Because if you see in many districts around the country that have a neighborhood school system, there are people who really, really want to go to a particular school and don't live in that area. And so, they pretend to live with a neighbor, or they pretend to live with grandma or whatever. And I feel a little bit like I would rather that the school district not be in the business of making people prove where they are, or having people knock on people's doors and check on kids' bedrooms to make sure that there's enough toys in there that they believe that there's really a kindergartner, who lives within a mile of Cabrillo. And I know you're thinking, well, it would never come to that, but but people get very serious about which school they go to, and I'm concerned that it might get to there, and that would require a lot of staff work and money.
I'll just chime in on that. We have that problem with inter-district transfers right now. We have sent out private investigators to find out that people are cheating and taking spots away from. So we actually do have that problem, but district-wide.
Right. Of course, people.
Yep. Do you have more?
Nope, that's okay.
Could I, before we go on, Ray, do you have the statistics for the kindergarten lottery? Maybe you could share that with the public so that they have that same information?
So the first bit of information I'd like to share is that students requesting the school in their geographic area for their first choice were on the low end 37% for one school, all the way up to the high end of 68%. Just
So-
requesting that
Just
school.
requesting.
And they actually lived in that area, okay, where that school is located. And then, as Matt had mentioned, at the time of the lottery, for the schools that did have first choice requests, after the lottery process occurred, 4 out of 5 schools, we were able to meet all of those first choice requests 100%. One school, Cabrillo, we were not able to meet all of the requests. There were 27 first choice requests. We were only able to meet 22, which came up with 81%. After the lottery process and due to movement and spaces opening up, we were able to increase that to 24 out of the 27 students received that first choice request for kindergarten at Cabrillo, which increased that to 89%.
And so how did you determine what the geographic area was?
The geographic area was based upon past information through a work study that was done by the board, and it's basically information that we received from the realtors in the Pacifica area of where the schools are located, determining where you live. That could be your neighborhood school if we were to go that route.
How many geographic areas are there in Pacifica that this realtor's kind of basically determined?
There are about a dozen.
Because there's about 12 geographic areas, and we look at 6 waiting. So half of the community doesn't live within the distance of the
Correct.
school. All right, just so that everybody has data on that. Does somebody else wish to share?
And that also, and then on top of that is our inter-district transfers.
Richard?
So I wanted to throw out a couple things. Doing anything geographic I think would be difficult at best, because you would have to consider what's their closest school if they want a K-5 versus what's their closest school if they want a K-8, since we have the two different tracks.
Can you add IBL in there too on the
Right,
lottery?
so, you would have to have circles within circles within circles to kind of figure that all out. Another thing which I want to second what Matt said and what Kalina said, the people who are the socioeconomically disadvantaged, last I looked, there is no Section 8 or low-income housing close to Valimar School or close to Cabrillo School. And, to say that those people who live up there because that's all that they can afford would have less of a chance to go to any one of those schools, I think is totally unfair. And then the last thing to bring up, and I'll bring it up just because I know that it's been thrown into this whole mix whenever there's talk about neighborhood schools, is the traffic. And I think that is really a falsehood to say that it would affect the traffic. The last numbers that I saw, and it's been a couple of years, so we could look at it again if we had to, there was only, I believe, about 150 kids that come out of this valley back here. So if all of those kids went to Valimar School, you would still have to bring another 400 children into this valley to fill that school. So it's not going to change your traffic problems.
Andrew?
So, I really thank you for coming up and speaking about this, because I do have, friends who have expressed concerns about getting into their school in kindergarten. And what I have found most, from, my anecdotal evidence, is that the people that don't get into their school of their choice either find that the school that they got into is a very fine place to go, or they've gotten into the school that they first chose via being on a wait list. So, so I hear it from parents not getting their school choice, but it seems to have gotten resolved a lot from those people. So, but, I'd really like to speak to the point of, the fairness of the kind of system that we have. If you think you're unlucky because you didn't get into your school, you can still be unlucky if you've got a 1.5 weighted chance to get into your neighborhood school. You know, it's really still, you know, a random process. Should it be a computerized process? Well, cards aren't real good random generators. Computers are pseudo-random generators, so they're not actually, you know, able to generate random data because you have to write an algorithm to get the names chosen. So, you know, it's not that there's any kind of a perfect situation of randomly assigning, but we have built, we have great schools all over the district. I really couldn't say that, my kid really needs to go to this school because they all have their strengths. But when a student, and I have one of them, finds that they really are not being successful at the school, we do end up moving kids around and getting on wait lists, and kids get into a school that suits them better. And so we do actually end up with a lot of more choice in this district than if you were in another district. I mean, kids get to move to a school that suits them a little bit better. So I feel like, even though it seems kind of harsh, you gotta go for the lottery, feel like we actually have a good system that gets kids into the right place. And so to revamp this whole system right now, we certainly, this conversation needs to come up every few years, just to kind of remind people why we do the lottery system, to get the outreach back out there that this is a system that we use to be fair, to mix up the neighborhoods a little bit, and to keep all of our schools very strong schools. So, thank you.
Okay. Well, this is my 12th year on the board, and this is very cyclical. About every 4 years it comes back again because the community, and we've worked extremely hard to make it. The first goal was to get all of the schools to have super strong programs, so that every child goes to a fantastic school in this district, and I think we have reached that point. It was also a goal that we offered different kinds of programs, which is where the K-8, K-5 middle school, that was a huge battle before my time, and the community really felt, and I hear that from parents. Some people want the middle school, that's the environment they need. Some people want that K-8 environment for their middle school students. Some people want K-5 because they think that should be separate from 6-8. So I think the fact that we offer multiple programs gets to your point, Andrea, that we are able to offer a variety of choices that meet both the students' needs and the family needs. I agree that it creates a lot of diversity, that we have people from all over the community living, going to school and knowing each other. The last time that this came up was Ballymar parents wanting in Ballymar, and nothing changed, and the next thing I knew, I had parents coming to me saying, I'm so glad you didn't change it. After I saw other schools, I wanted to go to fill in the blank. They were very glad to be able to have an equal opportunity access to other schools, other programs in the district, because there are different programs. And I think really from the point of view that the reason I deliberately asked Ray that question about how many geographic areas, I think it's unfair that half of the community would have more access to a school than what about the other half of the community that doesn't have equal access. And I would ask, I think that's an issue for legal counsel before I would even consider having that conversation, if the board wants to kind of go in that direction, that legal counsel would weigh in on if that's an issue of equity of access, where some people get more weighting than others. And to Richard's point, is there an issue of equity of access to program if you get weighted for a K-5 but really want a K-8 in the kindergarten process, and similarly when we go to the 6th grade lottery process with the big access to a K-8 middle school environment versus school. I don't want to spend the money on legal counsel if the board doesn't want to entertain that, but at some point, I mean, I think we have some legal issues that would have to be, to make sure that we've covered before we even go down that road. So I think that I think the open enrollment is that's what the government's trying to, I forget who made the point. Somebody made one. Thank you. That, that's these laws they keep passing about inter-district transfers, and if your school has a terrible API, that you have the right to go to another school, and the district's going to jump through these 25 hoops. And one of the nice things about our district is that we don't have to do much of that. We still have to send a few letters or something, but in reality, we are offering that to our parents. So we are essentially working as hard as we can to address those issues. So I think waiting is a very difficult thing. Computerized lottery, I don't, have an opinion one way or the other. I guess the question is this something of time that we would want staff to spend on right now, and expensive money in terms of exploring what that would cost and need to be done. And my opinion is we got a lot of other things on our plate right now that we've got to get done. Unless there's any other specific.
No, I'm ambivalent about the computer. I think as long as the process is kept open where people can come and watch the whole thing happen, it's fine.
Drawing envelopes out of a bin is considered adequately random if you stir the pot.
Right, and they always have a kid come and pull them.
Do we stir the pot?
Oh, we're good at stirring the pot.
Yeah, we always have a kid pick them, so.
Well, and we did,
You
changed.
have to have a shake or a stir.
Yes,
Yeah.
they do that, but we don't have the student any longer because it created length of time. So we who does it? An adult does it, but, because, it's hard.
Oh, Sandy?
Oh, Sandy did it.
There's nobody fair in all of this.
I know.
All right, it sounds like we addressed the neighborhood school issue, the computerized lottery issue. Are there any other issues that we needed to address?
And we'll take a look at.
Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Can I also just share with the board
Okay.
recent action that occurred the last couple days before school opened up? We were able to, with current procedure, take students that were on their grade levels the wait list due to sibling priority. They were at the top of the wait list, and we were able to get them into classrooms at schools with their sibling. This happened at a few of our schools prior to opening up. I want to thank LSEA, because to do that, we had to go into a +1 situation.
That's our unions, our teachers' unions, had to
Laguna
agree to.
Salada Education Association. I want to thank them because they were very understanding and very immediate responsive to it. And we're also trying to keep within, we are keeping within our state guidelines, and our auditors are checking with us to make sure we're making right choices in keeping with the new 24-to-1 mandated ratio. So when we did move the sibling priorities off the wait list into these grade levels, we were able to stay within that 24-to-1 range as well.
How many do we have left that are split between schools, approximately?
On the waiting list, 3.
3 families. That's pretty good.
Because adding them in would have gone.
Would have taken it too high.
So just to clarify, a school, because 24-to-1 occurs K through 3 or TK through 3, depending on the school. At some schools, we may go over the 1-to-24 ratio, 1-to-24.3, for example, because there may be openings in one grade level, but we've gone +1 in other grade levels.
So it gets averaged across.
So it's averaged across all grades in all classrooms. However, because we have this agreement with LSEA, that we just confirmed, make sure that we all understood it correctly, the agreement supersedes the 1-to-24 ratio of the state. So you have the first litmus test is 1-to-24, Then the second is if there is any documentation in contract that allows you to veer from that. And so because we have the +1, we were able to do that. So it's very exciting. I think that this is another step in us, again, working within our open enrollment, really wanting to focus on keeping families together and still allowing school choice. So.
All right.
So can we just clarify a little bit more?
Okay.
And
Okay.
sorry, I want Ray to.
Okay, Ray? Sorry.
I'm sorry. Just to make sure you're clear what our next steps are going to be, we're going to look at the document again, the handbook, is what I also heard, and to maybe try to tell the story a little stronger, right?
And
Did we land on computerized lottery system, or?
we're not spending the staff time now
Okay.
to even explore that possibility because we have other things that are priority.
There was a question around mandatory and, what was that?
Mandatory tours.
Mandatory or highly, what's the word?
Highly recommended.
Highly recommended.
Okay. Oh, I think, Matt, you brought that issue up, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So,
I'm fine with making that change.
pardon me?
I'm fine with that change.
Making it
To highly recommended, so that all the schools are the same.
Okay.
Could I suggest that perhaps we should hear from Karen, what she thinks about that?
I think that's a good choice, because when this topic came up before, Ocean Shore was the only one that had mandatory tours. And the issue was the fact that they have a program that expects parents to volunteer and runs on parent volunteering. And they also do monthly field trips, and they do a variety of other things. That was important to them. It was one of the things that was key to the success of their program. And so it was decided by the board at that time, just to give you some history, to make everybody mandatory so it would be the same. And I will be really honest with you, I used to do those tours. And I will never forget the day that a man came in with his clipboard and his checkoff list and everything else, and we went into a classroom where they were doing something, and he crossed Ocean Shore off, and he said, "I'm really sorry, this is not the school for me, I don't want to be rude." And I was like, "You're not being rude, you discovered what you needed to discover." So I think that community needs to be heard from before we make that unilateral decision. And I wonder what the perspective of other schools are, and whether they think the tours are important.
I believe, and I don't want to speak for Ray, but the reason is sometimes people will not, tell me if I'm getting this right, Beverly. Sometimes people will not put schools down because they didn't tour them. And so they felt that when it says mandatory and they didn't tour them, then they can't list the school name, which then makes it difficult to try to help them place. So that's why I'm wondering if we can, and maybe through a brochure or something, and be able to explain, these are the types of schools, and maybe a stronger document would help that as well. But I think we don't want to disclude people we don't want them not to put schools down if they didn't tour the school, because they might have heard and they might say, okay, I'm fine with it. Now with Ocean Shore, I think because of the high field trips and parent involvement and the hours that they need to accrue and that type of thing, that's why we went ahead and continued that. But, what we could do is talk with the principals and then make a decision based on what their recommendations are. Is that okay?
Fair? Yep, that's not fair.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
We have a question.
Yeah. Yeah. If the public.
Yeah, public comments are closed, and the reason is that because we don't want to get into debates back and forth, ongoing conversation, so. All right, we are moving on to school climate and safety update. This is a information discussion item.
Okay, before I move over to the podium, just real quick, my partner tonight in this presentation is Jennifer Gray, our Director of Linamar Education Center. Thank you, Jen, for being here. Just a little background information. We had our strategic plan with Pacifica School District developed a few years ago, but to enhance on that now, along with the components of the strategic plan, we want to focus on the child with a holistic education. So in 2012-13, we started to really focus on the school climate and safety aspect when educating a child. And we reported out at the end of that year with a safety and climate update. Rolling into this year, our school climate and safety update is also going to include components from now our new local control accountability plan. And Goal 7 of that plan focuses on school climate and safety. So with that being said, move over here. Tonight's presentation for school climate and safety again with Jennifer Gray. Are we on?
You're going to have to nod to me because it's actually on this computer this time.
So pointed at him. You see the little red light on your forehead? Push a button.
Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about school climate and safety and ways we've aligned our focus with LCAP number 7. I'd like to thank Dr. Tukloff and also Dr. Avila for their support with this presentation. Also Beverly, she's helped a lot with the data. And so we're going to look at our California Healthy Kids survey, some suspension, expulsion data, and also attendance data. Okay. Our school climate and safety teams work with the understanding that students will make the most of their education when social and emotional needs are met. This helps enable every student to be present in the classroom for learning. Okay, so first we'll look at Goal 7A, which is about fostering a sense of belonging for students. And we're currently using California Healthy Kids data to measure this, but we're also looking into additional tools to measure climate data for parents as well. And so as part of our survey, we're going to be looking at caring adult relationships, meaningful participation, high expectations, bullying, and students feeling safe at school. Okay. Here, students were asked questions such as, I skipped ahead one. So this part of the survey asked questions to determine if students feel connected and supported by adults at school. And as you can see, we made a big jump with our 5th graders with an increase in high levels of adult caring relationships, and we have 0 low levels.
Nelson, can you click back to the other side? There you go. Yeah, he's clicking for you.
Oh. Okay, and then to the next one. And then questions on this part of the survey ask if students have choice-making opportunities and opportunities to make a difference at school. And students consistently reported higher levels of meaningful participation in 5th grade than that of our 7th grade students. Although 7th grade had an increase in high levels of meaningful participation in 2004 when compared to 2012. Okay. And then here, students were asked questions such as, do you believe that, or do teachers believe that you make a difference? And over 95% of our 5th and 7th graders reported either high or moderate levels of high expectations at school. And here you can see that very rarely do students report cyberbullying, which is great, and definitely we see a lot less of it with our 5th grade students. So overall, it's very low, although many studies are showing now that students don't always necessarily report bullying, so it is difficult to gauge. Okay. And again, you can see 5th graders are reporting higher levels here of feeling safe in school than that of our 7th grade students. So these are some of the findings. Overall, we've noticed a gap between what 5th graders are reporting and that of our 7th grade students. So this may be an indicator that we need to look into some additional ways to foster a sense of belonging for our 7th grade students. And goal 7B is around global citizenship, and here we're going to look at suspension and expulsion data.
Do you want to have questions during the presentation or at the end?
Either way, maybe during.
Yeah.
Okay,
sure. Okay, go ahead.
Could you step back one? Do we break out the middle school from the K-8s?
The data that's collected by California Healthy Kids Survey is grade specific. Can we
Yes.
receive data by school, or is just by grade?
The school reports were done.
Actually, yeah, we had school reports. We don't have all of that data graphed yet, but this year we did go. In previous years, we had just done a main report, and so this is our first year of breaking it out by schools. So unfortunately, we don't have anything to compare 2012 to, but we should in 2 years from now.
So the question is there a difference?
Well, we have 3 K-8 sites, and we have a middle school, and we're seeing all of the 7th grade data, and it might not be the same, and that would be worth having them separated to know whether or not there's because they're very different programs. It would just be useful information, if it's not too much trouble to see it broken out.
I think
In
that's
2
doable.
years from now, we'd be able to do a comparison.
All right, Matt, you guys
Yeah, being that
Mark that on my
this
calendar.
year, you would only get to see this
Right,
year's population.
okay.
Yeah,
Great.
but we could do this year's.
No,
Yeah.
it's fine to wait, I just,
Yeah, no,
I mean,
I think
your
it'd be
issue-
interesting.
You could, even this year, you could still compare the K-8s to the middle school, right? You don't need 2 years of data to
True.
do that comparison. But obviously, more data is more
Yeah.
valuable.
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect it.
But no, it'd be interesting.
thank you.
Sure. Okay, so goal 7 is around global citizenship, and we're going to look at suspension and expulsion rates in Pacifica.
If we're done with 7A, then one question, I just want to, I've sort of said this before, and I'd like to say it again, is this meaningful participation is that, we've noticed that very few students feel that they have a high degree of meaningful participation, and I've suggested that maybe in the 7th grade, we can begin asking the students more of what they want from their education. And this is just something that I want to sort of throw in everyone's hopper for thoughts, is that by that point, I think in elementary school, we ask the parents what it is that they want from their kids' education, and that's understandable up to a point, but I think by the time kids get to middle school, they start to have an idea like, well, hey, what I would like is what I think would help with my teacher, like the electives that I would like to take are. And so I'm just sort of suggesting that maybe at some point we should begin to start asking them rather than their parents what it is that they want, and that might help improve meaningful participation.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so here I'm happy to share that Pacifica School District has a much lower rate of suspension than that of our state and also of San Mateo County. And the same goes with expulsion. Our expulsion rate is very low in comparison. Right now, the California Department of Education only has 2012, 2013 data. So hopefully soon we'll get the 2013, 2014 data to compare.
The numbers up the side, are those actual instance or?
No, this is just the rate.
So the rate
For,
being
like,
number of
X
students
students?
per population?
Yeah, like a percentage rate.
Of what? 100%?
Of students being suspended.
So the 5 is 5% at the state level. So
Right.
that there were, whatever the state population is, 5% of those were
Exactly.
suspended.
That is correct.
Okay.
And then this just looks at suspensions and expulsions in Pacifica School District, and this is not a percentage, this is just the number of incidences. So, as you can see, we've gone down each year. And our expulsions have kind of just stayed low. Okay, and then we look at suspensions by gender. And here you can see that males accounted for 88% of our suspensions this year. So that might be something to look at. Reasons for suspension, our top 3 reasons had to do with physical injury, defiance, and then other offenses. It's not reflected on this slide, but from looking at past year's data, we can see that we've been a little more consistent over the years about what would be a suspendable offense. So that was good data.
Yeah, if I can ask, obviously something happened in other offense. Is that, and it looks like maybe something that used to be other offense wound up getting reclassified as defiance, and that's why that crashed and that went up.
One went up.
What are these other? What happened in 2012?
I'm not sure. Any ideas?
I understand that in the 11-12 school year, Synergy just started adding suspension and discipline reporting into the system. And the classifications were broad in that year. They were finely tuned the next year.
Oh, I see.
So you will see more under other offenses because more categories fell into those other areas. But now they're more finely tuned and those other offenses are spread out to specific offenses now.
Then one more follow-up, if I might. It says number of incidents. Does that mean equate to number of students? Or could one student have been suspended twice or 3 times?
It could be one student suspended more than once. And so number of incidences are the actual incident that occurred. I could have made that incident occur 3 times throughout the year. So it's, and then versus, sometimes there's confusion with number of days, because one incident could result in 3 days of suspension. So we wanted to be real clear that that's just the number of incidences. Yeah.
So in 2013-14, I have 109 incidences of suspension, and then when the reasons are broken out, 33 plus 27 plus 8 is 68. What happened to the other 40 suspensions?
And the reasons? Oh, so these are just our top 3.
But others not everything
Other doesn't
else?
encompass everything. No, there
So
are
there's
like.
other, and then there's other that's
There's-
not other.
Right, we didn't want to list
Very well
every
said.
suspendable
Thank you.
offense.
Okay, all right.
But we definitely
Okay.
Because there
give
were
you
a lot.
more detailed.
Right, we
Okay.
can.
All right.
And
We have
does
those
this
numbers.
include in-school suspension, or is this just where they stayed home?
This is
Do we do
suspension
in schools?
that is documented. This is not in-school suspension. This is suspension going home. Yeah.
So this is missed days from school?
Yes.
Okay, and then we looked at suspensions by race and ethnicity. And what you can see here, there's a little bit of disproportionality, especially when you look that 24.2% of our students are Hispanic, and yet 37% of suspensions are of Hispanic students. So I think that's something to consider.
And then, again, the number on the side is incidents or individuals?
These are percentage of enrollment, so they're both percentages.
They're
So
percentages. Okay.
the blue is percent of that ethnicity that's enrolled in
Right.
Pacifica, and then percent that was suspended. Okay. So, really positive information that we do have a lower rate of suspensions and expulsions when compared to the county and state. But the disproportionality in suspension rates of boys versus girls, and also our Hispanic and African American students, is something that we would like to further examine.
Matt?
Yeah, can we, at some point, maybe can we discuss whether the offenses for which they are suspended are different? I mean, I think, you know, and also what specifically we would do to attempt to reduce suspensions in minority communities, because that's, you know, I mean, 24.2 to 37, that's like, you know, I mean, that's like a good, like, close to 50%, and 1.4 to 9 is frighteningly large.
Yeah,
It's like-
it is.
And what you're bringing up is a good reason to tap into our social skills groups that we currently have on every campus. That's either led by Youth Services Bureau or one of our school counselors, and that could be a targeted population to work with.
You know, and I would also ask if it could be broken down, because, I mean, the percentages are troubling, but also, if we're tracking incidents and not people, then we're not sure if it's a small number of people getting a majority of attention or suspension. I mean, it gives, the numbers, not that the numbers lie, but they don't really give us a full picture of what's exactly happening. You know, it may be just a few children. I don't know. I can't tell from this, and I guess I'd like to know.
Do we have, Beverly, do you know if we have that data just to show if it was, so we could probably look at
I mean, it's a small
down
number, which is
little bit
good,
more,
but
yeah.
we want to make it smaller, and it's a disproportionate number, which is
Yeah.
troubling. So it seems possible we could break it down and really see where it's happening and to
Right.
whom it's happening, and figure out what's, maybe some more information as to why it's happening.
Right.
Yeah. Definitely. Okay, and then we move on to goal C, which is that students and families will feel connected to schools. And here we look at school attendance data. And again, we don't have the truancy rates for 2013, 2014 yet for the county or the state. But as you can see, we are lower again in Pacifica than compared with San Mateo County and also the state.
That can't be, that's not percentage of students, is it? Like, we don't have 22% of our students that are.
That have been truant?
Yes, but that truancy also includes their absences due to illness.
Oh, I see.
So it could be excused and unexcused.
Okay. But didn't, I mean, so I'm just
3
reading
days
that
or more.
without a valid excuse, like, isn't being sick's not a valid excuse?
So it's more than 30 minutes or
I mean, it just says without, both of
without a
them,
valid
it says
excuse on
without
3 days, yeah, or a combination.
That
Yeah.
truancy rate, it reflects excused and unexcused.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the data that was on California Department of Education's website, but.
Okay.
And then we have data that we track on our chronic absenteeism, which I've shared in the past with the board, which is improving, but we have a focused grade level for this upcoming year, and that would be 8th grade.
Okay. And again, we don't have, when looking for the absentee data for the county and state, I was unable to find exact numbers. They gave a nationwide rate of an average of 10% of students, and Pacifica is 7.55, so we are lower than the national average. But
So I
hopefully we
think
can
they'll-
find more data on that.
I think on those numbers, I think that the kids don't get added into those numbers until they've been absent more than 3 days. More than 3 occurrences during a school year. They're adding the chronic absentees into that, even if they're excused. But I think if the kids who are absent less than 3 days that are excused are not added into that percentage.
And not considered chronic.
So you're saying that there's...
I think if you're absent less than 3 days over the course of the school year, then you're not included in, I believe you're not included in this data. It's only when you're
Right.
absent more than 3 days, whether they're excused or not.
Oh, okay,
Then
so the valid excuse
Then you're
thing is
considered
not.
chronic absentee.
Oh, okay.
And then you're added into these numbers.
Okay, so this
At
definition...
least that was the way
is
that
just
I understood it.
Is what I'm hearing.
I didn't read the
Because the definition says, who is absent from school without a valid excuse, 3 full days in one school
3 full days in one
So
school
if it's
year.
not,
So if you're absent for more than 3 days, whether they're excused or not, it's considered chronic.
I see.
And then you're added into the data.
Okay.
The way it's written, it's very confusing.
It is.
Well, it doesn't really help us identify the kids who, I mean, if a kid broke his leg and is out for a week, then he's in there when that's really not a kid that's
Right.
a chronic, something
Right.
happened.
And so we have to disaggregate it more.
Right, because otherwise we can't identify the kids who are having issues that we can support.
I do want to remind the board, though, that we have been running attendance reports starting 13-14 school year, and we are able to disaggregate that data and hand off to our school sites what we would consider like the top 10% of chronic absentee students, and we are able to look at the exact reason why they're absent.
Great.
So the principal can share with staff and say, okay, well, we know that this student is absent because they were out, they had a severe illness. Versus the student was out because, for another reason.
And then in this number, do we have it separated out by school? So that we can see where it's happening?
Yes, we definitely can separate it out by
I have a
school.
feeling that it's probably higher at Sunset Ridge than it is at Cabrillo.
Correct.
Well, is that data true?
Yes, we do have a higher chronic absenteeism rate at Sunset Ridge than we do at Cabrillo.
Because we do have a lot of parents that take their children to Disneyland for a week and
No, but
Hawaiians.
parents work 2 jobs, can't get their kids.
No, I know. I just think that assuming that it's one school versus, I think there's different reasons.
Yes.
At the schools, but sometimes you'll see high rates at schools, depending on how the parents feel.
Yes.
But just to clarify, we do give that disaggregated data on a monthly basis to the school sites.
So this is just a snapshot of some of the accomplishments from the 2013-2014 school year. Our school climate and safety teams have been working hard to make each campus feel safe and welcoming to every student. There's also been an implementation of programs such as Playworks that's happening at each site, the Bully Project, which is happening at each site, Respect 24/7, and then the addition of our Family Resource Center and staff development opportunities for our school climate and safety teams around the implementation of school-wide positive intervention and supports.
And I want to remind the board that for this school year, we have been able to increase counseling time across the district with staff.
And then we're currently in year 2 of our counseling and social services plan, so these are just some of the highlights of what's been done and what's currently being worked on. And then just some next steps, focusing on the areas of meaningful participation, caring peer and adult relationships, parent involvement, and character education. Schools are working on making video matrices of school rules and policies, making things more consistent across each school and for each student. Providing staff professional development on using technology such as social media, Playworks, piloting the check-in, check-out program, which is a program where staff checks in with certain students daily before school and then also after school to see how their day was going. We're trying to review parent training opportunities and ways to increase parent involvement in parent training. And then also modifying our health education plan, continuing to align with Respect 24/7, the Bully Project, and a Common Sense Media focus on digital citizenship. Any other questions?
Matt?
So the one sort of overwhelming thing is the "do you feel safe at school" question, which we've seen from 2012 to 2014. There seems to have been considerable movement in both 5th and 7th grade, from all of the time to most of the time. And I don't know what would cause such a thing, but since SWPBIS has been in place for just about that period of time, like maybe it would be worth seeing if there's something about that we've been doing it seems that there's something we've been doing that has actually either not been effective or even sort of allowed things to slide. So I don't know what you think that might be, but there are a couple of things that I'm just wondering if maybe I could meet with you guys a little bit later to sort of go over what you think about some of the individual things in there. Where that would go, because I mean, if kids say they don't feel safe at school, that says bullying to me. I mean, that's and that's something that I thought, we seem to be doing. When we looked at this back in 2012, we seem to be thinking like, wow, we're doing really, really good at this.
Right.
And I think we all thought that SWPBIS might help us get to an even better place, and it doesn't seem to have done that. And maybe that's our fault. Maybe there's something that we have failed to fund something that would allow staff more time to implement SWPBIS. Like I know that there are, in order to do it properly, there are, you guys need to have time on, at the site to actually do stuff. And if you don't have it, then maybe we should see if there's something that we could be doing that would enable them to do a better implementation and see the results.
Yeah.
Eric?
I just thank you for all this work. I mean, I'm not sure, the numbers or the statistical variances and all this stuff, but the bottom line is really simple. If they're not there, they're not learning. And if they're not feeling safe, they're not learning. So that's, the bedrock of what we do here is that has to be addressed. We spend a lot of time and energy on a lot of wonderful programs, but if they're not there, they're not getting them. And I appreciate the time and energy and the thought that goes into this, and hope we can get a refinement. I think we're a small enough district that these aren't just statistical pictures. They're real kids, and we can drill down and identify those kids and get them the help that they need. I think that's why we're all here.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for a great report. And thank you, Beverly. Okay. The next item is the candidate forum nights, information discussion.
So November 4th, 2014 is our election, and we will be having a Board of Trustee election. We have 3 seats. One incumbent is running, Richard Faust, and then we have 3 other candidates, Elizabeth Radal, Kathy Shiakari, and Lobern Villalobos. And one of the things that we have done in the past is to have candidate forum nights where the community would have an opportunity to meet the candidates. And so we had the opportunity to poll the candidates, and September 23rd and September 30th are two of the dates that the candidates were able to all attend. We have been in contact with Connie Menifee, who has accepted being moderator. However, unfortunately, she had a conflict on September 23rd, and so Cynthia Kaufman has agreed to be moderator for September 23rd. There was a structure to the forum in the past. I don't know if there are thoughts around modifying the structure or how you would like to go about it, but one of the things that we did was candidates had an opening statement, then we had questions and responses, rotating the person who responds first, and then each candidate would have closing statements. The way we could get questions from the community and from the trustees would be to have them submitted to the superintendent by Friday the 12th, then the board president, myself, and the moderator can sift through all the questions and then develop some of the lines of questions. Another option, and I believe, Eric, you were moderator last time, and did we take questions we took questions from the audience?
I did.
Oh. You did?
I did, but
Oh.
I took them and grouped them and tried to edit them down
Yeah.
to some.
So if you had 3 things on, let's say, enrollment procedures,
Right.
you kind of grouped it into one question.
Right.
Right.
I tried to
Craft?
a single question from what was given.
So I guess my hope would be if we give this window of opportunity, and I could put it on the website, please submit questions, then we could get that ahead of time and really group them the same way and craft, questions that will be able to address some,
Right, the
another
goal
item.
is to not do, gotcha questions or something, some obscure,
Right.
detail in the district that.
Did you come in with all the questions made ahead of time?
Yeah.
Or you weren't taking them that night from the
No,
audience?
well, no, I had done both. I had a set of questions that had been
I
circulated.
don't remember that.
And then I also asked people if they had any, and while you guys were answering, I was taking a look to see if there was, for most of the time, if I recall, very few of the questions that came from the audience were different than the ones I had. They just were later in the evening, so. I mean, I'd done it enough times that I was pretty confident I got the right questions to ask. But I wasn't invited to do it this time for reasons that are unclear to me.
so it's up for input, conversation, thoughts?
Just out of curiosity, do the candidates get the questions ahead of time?
Nope. Nope. And then it's randomized so that each person would start off,
Right.
next question. So you're not always getting the first, unlike, correspondence and stuff, at the beginning of these meetings, we don't start with the same person each and every time.
Not that you feel.
Picked on?
No.
No.
One question I would have, especially so that the folks, about how much for the opening statement and the closing statement, time did you allow?
I think it was 2 minutes. And we did that by random.
Who gets to go first? Just so people know how much to prepare, closing and.
Part of that was generated by the number of candidates and how much time, so that if you take a look at your questions and you're giving people a minute each, you just sort of, you're a math teacher, you can work it out.
I can work out the math.
Figure out how much time you have in the evening and, how much to spread it out.
So about a 2-minute.
Yeah, no more than, I think, 2 minutes is, 2 minutes is a long time to make an opening statement.
And probably the closing statements, they want to prepare them or just respond based on the questions asked, okay? Okay, so are we moving, this is good for everybody to move forward?
And that's a sure.
Perfect, thank you.
It's not an action item.
No.
No, I just
No,
want to
we
make
just wanna
sure
make
that
sure.
we didn't have any, any other questions. Okay, now we're on to resolution number 2014-08-27-A. This is a conflict of interest and it is an action item.
Okay, first, I think there is 10D, board bylaw and exhibit for conflict of interest.
Oh, sorry, thank you. I'm trying to get adjusted to
I
the
know.
new process. Okay, so board bylaw exhibit 9270, conflict of interest.
So, the reason why we have to do it first is because we wanted to update our board bylaw, and we do not currently have an exhibit 9270, and the exhibit is a resolution. Conflict of interest is really for us to be able to inform the assessors, county clerk, recorder about any changes in our staffing in relationship to the Form 700 that we need to submit. And so Board Bylaw 9270 does have the changes that we need to do in relationship to Pacifica School District, and so that was included in the information there. The exhibit, again, is the resolution. Should the board want to use the resolution format for us to be able to update our board bylaws.
So what we're being asked to do is in 10D, we're approving the board bylaw and the exhibit, and then in 10E, we approve the resolution that we've just read in 10D?
Correct.
Is that, okay.
Gosh, you're
It's
good.
very technical.
Okay.
I know, I'm sorry.
And we can do that in one meeting? We can read it in
Yes.
10D and...
As long as
10E?
as long as the board feels comfortable with it, yes.
As long as there's no conflict.
Right. Conflict of, right.
It has to be done by September 1st.
That's, normally we would take more time, but we're under a
Right.
deadline to do what is essentially a pro forma process, so.
Let Matt make the motion.
Does anyone have an objection to me moving that we approve the board bylaw 9270 and exhibit 9270?
No.
Okay.
So moved. Second.
Okay.
All in favor? 5-0.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, now we have, I'm going to check these off so I can see what I'm doing. Resolution number 2014-08-27, conflict of interest. So this is
So,
now the resolution.
Right,
This is that we need to send to the board.
exactly.
I mean, to the county.
Right.
Since nobody had any objections to 10D, I'm going to go ahead and move that we adopt resolution 2014-08-27A, with the assumption that someone would have objected to 10D if we had.
A second.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor?
That's a 5-0, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're off to the fourth quarter report of interest earned.
This is an information item for the board, and it's the interest earned for last school year, 2013-14. The first column shows the interest earned in the last quarter of June 2014, and then last year was an unusual year where we had the Lehman Brothers payout, and so we reflected that in that second column, in the middle column there, and then showed year-to-date earnings of just over $200,000 for all funds for the whole year.
And the Lehman Brothers kind of went back in proportional to what came out, in the sense that if we lost 10% our capital outlay, we put 10% of the meager amount that we got back in.
Exactly.
Okay, any questions? Okay, that was an information item. All right, so now we are on to board bylaws, board policies, and administrative regulations. First readings.
That's yours.
I know, I'm having a little hard time bringing everything up quickly, sorry.
So this is a manual maintenance item, and it is AR 5144 that we pulled from the last series of manual maintenance items that I addressed to the board. This one is regarding discipline, and the reason why we pulled it is we wanted to survey our principals to see what current practice is, and they all unanimously agreed that they do not require their teachers to come to them if they are removing a child for recess for disciplinary action. If for any reason that there is a higher degree of discipline necessary, then they do go, but not specifically for the removal of recess.
Any questions? No. Okay, so we'll just bring that back on consent?
Thank you.
Okay. All right, and that was all of the, hey, short list this week. All right, future agenda items.
Okay, so on September 17th, we will be having a presentation, and I think we're going to move the approval of unaudited actuals to October, is that correct?
No,
Oh,
it'll
you're
be
going to keep it?
September 17th.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay. And
So the presentation is going to be school services?
yes.
Okay.
And that is the organization efficiency review that they did last spring.
Yeah,
And it will probably be Josie who will be presenting that.
Okay, so for the 9/17 meeting, could we add PSD to the calendar?
I can ask Kathy, we have a PSD.
I've already
board.
spoken to her.
Oh, okay.
To ask her if she would like to come and present, and she's accepted
Okay.
for that
It
evening.
just-
So she'll come and present on Think Bridge over the summer as well. Just introduce herself to the board since she's the new director and talk a little bit about what the organization does.
Okay, and we have time for that, Wendy? Okay.
Yeah,
Anything else we need to add? Okay.
Is there?
I mean, there will be
You're
then
just talking about
two-
the 17th or the
Well,
whole?
There will be two presentations
Two
then.
presentations on the 17th.
And then Tina will be giving I think that'll be okay, an update.
No, we can talk about October 8th and the 29th. Any information that you have so that staff can do the work and/or Wendy and I can figure out what the timing is for the meetings.
Oh, yeah, no, I actually had a work study question, so
Oh.
we finish with the.
Because I do want to bring up a couple of work studies that we need to
Okay,
add.
there you go.
Okay.
Perfect timing.
September 10th, I would like to request an LCAP update and assessment update. We don't have much data, but we do have some because SBAC last year was a field test.
But we didn't get student data on that,
But we may get some science data. We're just waiting to see what's going to come back. We haven't received anything yet. And unfortunately, the physical fitness test is embargoed until October, so we'll probably add that in some other report that we have, what we give. But I think, I'd like you to hear what we're doing with
I
Outlook.
cannot attend that night, so, but I'll catch up with you the next day to get the information.
So September 10th,
September 10th.
Work study on LCAP and.
7 or 6?
6. Is that
It'll be
okay?
at 6 o'clock.
Matt, is
The
6?
time, yeah, that's
Because
good.
we
Is
can
that-
push back.
Okay, is that for everybody, or we're going to have closed session first?
I don't know yet. At this time, we usually don't have closed session, but.
We will only have closed session in the event that something comes up between now and then.
Yeah, that's like real.
Okay. And then on October 22nd, I would like to propose we do a work study for our single plan for student achievement.
Oh, that's the principals come and share? 6 o'clock again?
Yes.
How far in advance will we get the plans? Because that's rather lengthy reading.
Yeah, we talked about that, so if I can confirm the timeline with Tina, and then I'll get back to all of you. I want to say we tried to get it to you a week ahead of the work study, so you have.
How long do they need to, if there's any way we could move that to the 15th, that would work better.
The 15th of.
Of October.
If, provided that gives them enough time to do their.
Okay, am I?
Is that too tight to?
Yeah, it might be a little.
Okay, yeah,
Is
if they
that
don't,
bad?
if that's not going to give them enough time.
Because they bring it to the 29th and for approval, so I wanted to give them as much.
Okay, that's
Like
good.
August, what?
October 22nd, if we have the work study, then the 29th we come for approval. That'll give them a week to fix whatever they need to.
Well, I think Rich is saying October 15th work study, that would give them 2 weeks to fix anything.
But then they'd have 1 week.
But then they'd
They
have.
have 1 week less to prepare, so that's
Right.
the question.
Right.
She's trying to protect her staff and make us happy. So what is the pleasure of the board?
Yeah.
Do the work studies have to be Wednesdays? Is there a?
Well, we just.
I know that's
Yeah.
tradition. I'm just asking
Would
if
another
that
day that
makes it-
would be better for you, Richard? We have a PSV meeting on the 23rd.
Yeah, the 21st I could do.
How does that look for everybody
It's
else?
a Tuesday.
That doesn't conflict with when, I haven't got the candidate forms in here yet.
Those are both
That's in September.
Oh, sorry.
So the 21st, I think, looks open, and they have leadership council that day. Does that work for anybody?
Oh, so they can just be with us all day long?
Yeah.
Oh, lucky them.
Oh, they just.
Won't they be in a great meeting?
Well, they'll get all the boredness out.
21.
They'll get it.
In one go instead of having to spend 2 days with us.
Yeah, right. I'm sure that's exactly how they're gonna think of it.
Right.
Now, so what about the 9/10 then? Do you want to look because you can't make it?
So once again, I could do the day before.
The 9th.
I'm fine with that.
Tuesday, September 9th.
Right.
Tuesday the 9th.
Doesn't it
Yeah.
conflict with back to schools?
Okay, those are the 4th and the 11th.
Yeah, they're 4th, 11th, and 17th. So do you want to do the 9th?
Is the night good for everybody?
Is that
We can do
okay?
the 9th.
All right, well,
Okay.
thank you everyone for being flexible on
No,
that.
that's fine. It's really important that you be there.
So did that answer your questions, Matt, on work studies? No.
I was just gonna say, as long as we're on that date, I have September 11th as a city council, PSD, JUHD liaison meeting. And I know Kalima Jones is to come back to this room again.
You have that
Yes,
on the
that is
11th?
Yes, there's an articulation meeting that day.
Okay, well, 3 of each one, 3 of a kind versus a superintendent. That's
I know,
Board members against the superintendent, she's out.
3 board meetings, even if one's
You know,
not on board.
I have it on the 10th. You have it on the 11th?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. You have it on the 11th? Okay, outvoted.
Because then we go straight across the parking lot to Valamar for the open house. Back to school
Back
night.
to school night.
Which means you get a parking space early, which is cool.
There you go.
Woo! Okay.
So my work study question, this was in conversation with the lovely Sue Beckmeyer. She suggested that libraries might be a good topic down the line for a work study, because I had mentioned that I wasn't sure I had a really good grasp of what a modern school library could possibly be, and so whenever you guys have it, I'm not rushing that, so whenever you guys have a better idea of what it is that you think libraries should be, then I feel like that's information that we could use a presentation on, so that we have some idea of what we might be.
We have a library media technology plan, and so I did get an update, and we'll be bringing to the board policy on library media centers at the September meeting, so you'll get to get a sense of what the state is looking at, and then what our next steps would be with our library media technicians or assistants would be to take a look at our library media plan to make sure that we've incorporated things in there that we need to for next steps. So maybe we can bring that, at some point in time in the spring or something on what updates we're going to do.
Whatever works for you guys.
Okay.
I think a board policy doesn't strike me as like the place to find the most innovative material on
Well, but it
21st
does,
century library.
it does give us structure, because it tells us, defines what we kind of need to look at.
Okay, so the difference, the policy gives us the structure, but the plan is
Is
where the meat and guts of
Right.
this,
Yeah,
how it is.
so that'll
It's
be
already,
fun.
yeah, the plan is already a few years, right? 'Cause
Yeah,
I remember
but
seeing that.
I do too. And then I was hard pressed to go back and look to see how did we really include our library media centers, because we all have one in our schools. So I think we need to do a little bit more digging. And that'll help us.
Are you thinking like innovative types of things or different ways to think about it? or-
I think we all know what a school library was like when we were in school. I just don't know what a school library would look like in 2014. And I think we would be looking at something very different. I think my suspicion is that very few schools in the state have a state-of-the-art library. So I think that we can't this is one of those things like with 21st century education where I think we would have to lead rather than, so I mean, yes, I think the board policy
agree.
can possibly give us some structure, but, I don't think we can go like, okay, well, down the road, this is what they have and that's what we need. I think we probably need to, again, I think this is the district to do it, so.
You're right. Thank you.
And we have a lot of fabulous library people out as resources outside the schools as well to help guide that.
True.
Okay, any more items? Close the meeting at 8:50.